So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'd like to welcome all the devotees. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can continue on this very sweet journey of overview of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are today looking at chapter 3 and Canto 3, chapter 27. I'd like to seek the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Maharaj so that we can try to understand a little bit more about Lord Kapil's teachings to Devahuti. So I'm not going to go through the whole summary, just that Swambhu Manu gave his daughter Devahuti to to Kadam Muni, and they produced 9 children, 9 girls, and then Kapil Dev himself appeared as he had promised to Kadam Muni after he did his tapasya. And Kadam Muni sought permission from Kapil Dev to leave home, and he also advised Devahuti to seek instructions or knowledge from Kapil Dev. And this is what has been happening. Devahuti Mataji has been asking questions of Kapil Dev, who's been giving her the answers based around Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga is basically distinguishing between matter and spirit. So the idea is to understand what is matter and what is spirit, and then progress systematically in that field. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So this verse is from the Bhagavatam, 27th chapter, 26th verse. Evam vidita tatvasya prakriti mai manasham yujanto napa kuruta atma ramasya karhichet.
Translation.
Yes, read.
Translation. The influence of material nature cannot harm an intelligent enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Very good, Shriyansh. So this is the person who, the devotee, he's living in this world. Of course, he has to act in this world. So even if he is acting in this world, because he's a devotee and is aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's not affected by these material activities. Oh, okay. Let me just do that. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so this chapter, 27th, is called Understanding Material Nature. It's very, very good to understand the world we live in. So the soul in conditioned life. The soul, although situated in Prakriti is this material body, material world, and in a material body, is unaffected by the modes of material nature because he is unchanging and does not claim proprietorship. Just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna? Okay. However, when the same soul becomes absorbed in the gunas of Prakriti, the 3 modes of material nature, and bewildered by false ego, he falsely thinks he's the proprietor of everything. Thus he gets entrapped in continuous samsara, transmigrates into different species of life, even though he is transcendental material existence due to his mentality of lording it over material matter. So its example is the driver in the car, right? The driver has nothing to do with the car, right? It's completely 2 separate entities. But if the driver is driving and has a crash and he says, "You hit me," that wouldn't be a correct fact because he didn't actually hit him, he hit the car. The soul is separate, the driver is separate from the car. But because we are so much identifying with our car that we're thinking we are the car, that's madness. Just like the person who, if he was thinking, I am this Porsche that I'm driving, would be considered mad. So we are also a little bit mad, unfortunately. And because we are identifying so strongly with this body and everything connected to it, we're thinking we are owners of various things which actually don't belong to us. We may be in possession of them. That's a different matter. So self-realization by Gyan Yoga, this is Kapil Dev is explaining now, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He's explaining Bhakti Mishra Gyan, which aims at impersonal liberation. So Gyan Yoga is, again, it's distinguishing between matter and spirit, but with a view to merging the Lord. And the primary element of this is Gyan, knowledge. Gyan means knowledge. And the secondary element is Bhakti and Astanga Yoga. So the main aim of the Gyanis is this, getting this knowledge. The Lord mentions 18 qualities to be cultivated by the Gyani. So these are the 18 qualities that are stated in these 6 chapters. Equal to all souls, no enmity, no intimate connections, celibacy, grave. He offers his results to the Lord. He's satisfied with whatever comes. His eating is regulated. He's thoughtful, living in a secluded place, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, determined, no bodily identification, transcends the gunas, the modes, aloof from other concepts of life. Very similar to the bhakta, right? But to get to this level for the jnani is very difficult because they do not necessarily place any importance on the Supreme Lord. So this is done out of a great deal of effort by themselves. And Krishna addresses this point because Arjuna asks him in the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, which is exactly what we're reading every day, that what is better, serving your personal form or your impersonal form? And then Krishna gives explanation. Actually, serving the impersonal form is very, very difficult for those who are embodied, us. So eventually he said they will get there perhaps, but it's very difficult. So in Kali Yuga, we can guarantee it's not achievable. So anyway, these symptoms are similar to the devotee. The devotee can gain these much more easily because they depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti includes Gyan, just like a 50-pound note includes a 10-pound note or a 20-pound note. Presence of the Lord in the pure soul. The presence of the Lord can be realized just as the sun is realized first as a reflection on water and then on the wall of a room, although the sun itself is situated in the sky. So actually the concept is that we can see the shadow or the reflection on of the sun on the water, but that's not the real sun, right? The real sun is in the sky. And then when we see in the room, the sunshine on the wall, again, we perceive that we are seeing the sun. And it's a little bit better than the reflection on the water because you can actually get the direct sunlight onto you. But still, the sun is in the sky. So in the same way, self-realized soul is thus reflected first in ego and then in the body, senses and mind. The soul is pure, alert, and free from ego, yet he appears to be covered by the ego and its products, sense, minds, etc. So the false ego, first thing that covers us from understanding who we really are. And then, of course, the false ego gets attached into the mind, body, senses, etc. So we lose our realization, self-realization. Devahuti's important question. Okay, really important question. Devahuti asked the Lord, since Prakriti and Jiva, material world and material nature and the soul, are attracted to each other eternally. How is this separation possible? Because Kapil Dev has already described, right? He's described the 24 elements, and then 25th is consciousness, this chitta, the soul. So she's asking, how is it possible for the 25th element to be segregated from the 24 elements? Although not the doer, he's attached to the modes, and Prakriti acts on him and binds him. So how is liberation possible? She asked some really important questions. And the Lord answers, material nature cannot harm a soul. The soul is liberated when he practices as follows. Intense bhakti for a long time. Intense bhakti for a long time. Can't get away from that. Without desire for fruit of results. So not wanting the fruits. By doing our duties, whatever they may be. By hearing about the Lord, being in perfect knowledge and being detached, being austere, practicing yoga and self-absorption, bhakti yoga. We're not talking about the Astanga yoga here. Renouncing his desire to control and enjoy matter, he becomes free of material energy, which can no longer harm him. The devotee thus blissfully enters the spiritual world. So the Lord gives the answer to Devahuti's question. Of course, it's not easy to practice this, but he gives the answer, how to get free of material prakriti. Any questions? Any comments?
Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Does it mean material nature or our 24 elements?
Yeah, both. Both.
Material nature means everything surrounding us, like environment and okay.
Yeah, that's correct. The 24 elements make up the material nature.
Yes, but does it include the body as well?
Yes, because our body is made up of, the 5 gross elements.
Yes, yes.
And then the mind, intelligence, ego. Yeah. And then we have the senses, sense objects. So yeah, it does include the body.
So it includes everything apart from the soul. Yeah.
Essentially, that's absolutely right.
Okay.
Absolutely right. The 25th element is the soul.
Soul, yes.
We have the chitta, the consciousness. Yeah. Very good. And then the 26th element is Paramatma, who initiates everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Nariman. It's good. Anybody else? Okay. So let's go into chapter 28. Kirtanya tirtha yashasham punya sloka yashashkaram tayayet devam samagram
Yavanachavate manaha. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed.
And we are very fortunate. We can sing Mahamantra, bhajans. We can listen to the glories of the Lord and his devotees. We can meditate on the Mahamantra. We've really been blessed by some incredible fortune. So let's have a look at this chapter, because he gives quite a lot of detail about different things. This is probably one of the most challenging chapters in the Bhagavatam. Kapil's instructions on the execution of devotional service. The limbs of Astanga Yoga. It's challenging because he's going to talk about the 8 different limbs of Astanga Yoga. And this is the same yoga that Krishna revealed to Arjuna in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Kapil described the preliminary practices of yoga, which help one control the mind. Yama. Now, devotees may be aware of these 8 disciplines. It's part of the Patanjali yoga system. So yama is basically moral discipline non-violence, truthfulness, refraining from theft, possessing only what is necessary, celibacy, study of the Vedas,
Okay.
study of the weather, silence. Niyama is observances or developing virtues. Niyama is also niyam, taking vows, executing prescribed duties to the best of ability, avoiding performing duties not allotted, satisfied with what is achieved by the Lord's grace, worshipping the lotus feet of a spiritual master, cessation of conventional religious practices, attracted to those who lead to salvation, eating frugally, remaining in secluded place, austerity, cleanliness, worshipping the Supreme Lord. Sometimes the Astanga yogis are taken to be those who are worshipping the impersonal form of the Lord. But if you look at Kapil Dev's guidance, it's not. It's actually worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's quite interesting. The third of these, what are they? Limbs, yeah. The third is the physical posture. This is where you get steady by mastering the correct asanas. So you sit straight back, your eyes are a little bit open, you're focusing on the tip of your nose, like that. Very difficult to do that for any sustained period of time. Pranayam, breathing. Now, breathing is one of the key things. Pranayam is one of the key bases of Patanjali yoga. Baba Ramdev, controlling the breathing of the vital air. Very, very important. Even in ordinary life, forget about yoga. Learning to breathe properly just in ordinary life is so important. We don't even know how to breathe. Hardly in a day we would even take a deep breath. Hardly. But we must, every few minutes, take a deep breath. As our yoga teachers will tell us, Jayanti and Kamakshi. Jayanti's retired. Pratyahara, sense withdrawal. Withdrawing senses from material objects. So concentrating the mind in the heart. Concentrate the mind on the Paramatma, in fact. Dharana, dharan. Concentration, fixing prana at one spot amongst the various chakras by mind. So fixing it. There's so many chakras in our body. I don't know much about chakras, but I know they're very important chakras in our body, which the yogis will master how to control the soul, control the mind by these chakras. Dhyan, absorption or meditation. Meditation, the limbs of the Lord and the Vaikuntha Leelas. And then finally, we have samadhi, which is enlightenment or bliss, where you're connecting with the Supreme Lord, the state of mind being virtually absorbed in the Lord. So this is, Kapil Dev is explaining this to his mother. Not even that. Yeah. Pranayam to samadhi. So the next bit. Kapil Dev goes into more detail about the yoga process of sitting postures and breath control. By such practice, what will happen? It destroys the doshas in the body. So this, the Ayurveda specialists will tell you, these yoga pranayams are very, very good because they make you healthy. Become free from material association with sense objects. It helps you control your mind. So not just the body is safe, but the mind also becomes safe. Destroys sin, dharan. Right? So he's explaining the difference from pranayam to dharan to samadhi then. Become free from the modes. And ultimately, see the Supreme Lord. So he's explaining to his mother, This is what will happen when you perform this Astanga Yoga properly. The Lord's form for performing Dhyan. So this is really interesting. Within himself, the perfect yogi sees the all-attractive, eternal form of the Lord. So when he's meditating, he will visualize the Lord. So actually, oh yeah, good, it's there. So what is the Lord? How would he visualize him? Cheerful, lotus-like countenance, loins covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like lotus filaments, healthy red eyes like the interior of a lotus. So I just did a Google and this came up. So interesting. Not quite red, but anyway. Dark complexion body like the lotus of like the petals of a blue lotus. This is an incredible picture. So this is a blue lotus. His body color is resembling something like this. Of course, there's no color that can define God's body, his hue, but anyway. Bears a conch, disc, mace, lotus in hand. So this is what the yogi is visualizing in his heart. The Paramatma, yeah. Srivatsa mark, the curl of white hair on his breast, the Kastuba gems suspended from his neck, the priceless pearl necklaces, bracelets, crown, armlets, anklets, loins, hips is encircled by a girdle, standing on the lotus of the devotee's heart, most charming to look at, the sincere aspects, gladdens the eyes, mind, and hearts of the devotees, eternally very beautiful, worshipable by all inhabitants of every planet, situated in youth and boyhood, eager to bestow blessings upon the Lord, the devotees, worth singing his glories. His glories enhance the glories of the devotees. And he always wearing garland of forest flowers and they're humming with intoxicated bees. One should meditate upon all the limbs until the mind becomes fixed. So this is a little idea of what Kapil Dev said to Devhuti. Then the yogi should meditate on each of the body's Lord's limbs from his lotus feet. So we've talked about this before. When we have darshan of the Lord, we start with the feet. They're marked with a thunderbolt, gold, banner, lotus. He has about 12, 14 markings. Splendor of beautiful ruby nails resembling orbit of moon. Lord Shiva becomes blessed by bearing Ganga water that washed Lord's feet on his head, dispels the gloom of one's heart, and he acts like thunderbolts on the mountain of sins in the mind. So this is all what described by Kapil Dev to Mother Devhuti. This is the benefits. As soon as you focus on the Supreme Lord, this is what happens. So then he's talking about the Janu, just above the knees, calves, fix in heart the activities of Lakshmi, who is always found massaging the Lord's legs and thighs. Then the thighs we meditate on, whitish blue, like the luster of linseed flour, appear most graceful when the Lord is on Garud's shoulder. Storehouse of all energy. Thighs are very, very strong. Hips, they're rounded, girdle encircled by a girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that goes down to the ankles. The navel is moon-like in the center of his abdomen, foundation of the whole universe, from where the lotus stem comes, containing the planetary systems, and upon whom Lord Brahma was born. His nipples resemble a pair of the most exquisite emeralds. They appear whitish because of the ray of the milk, white pearl necklace adoring his chest. His chest, abode of Mahalakshmi, source of pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. His neck enhanced the beauty of Kastubha gem on his chest. His arms, source of all power of demigods, controller of nature's functions. Sudarshan Chakra, 1,000 spokes, dazzling bluster. Conch, looks like a swan in lotus-like palm. So then look at the club, we can meditate on his club, very dear to him, smashes the inimical demons and is smeared with their blood. His garland, surrounded by bumblebees with a nice buzzing sound. His pearl necklace represents the pure living entities who are always engaged in this service. His lotus face, the lotus-like countenance. Lord comes in different forms in this world out of compassion for anxious devotees. His nose is very prominent. Crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. When we read the Damodarastakam, the first prayer also talks about his alligator-shaped earrings. Adorned with curly hair and decorated by lotus-like eyes, dancing eyebrows. His eyes soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glance, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. His eyebrows, manifested by his internal potencies in order to charm Cupid for the good of the sages. He who doesn't want the sages to be tempted by Cupid, so he helps them. So if one is overly lusty, the recommendation, and Guru Maharaj told us this as well, is focus on the Lord's eyebrows. That will remove the lust. Laughter, so captivating that it can easily be meditated upon. Small teeth resembling jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi no longer desires to see anything else. So what are the symptoms of liberation? When the yogi has thus developed pure love for the Lord, his body exhibits ecstatic symptoms such as hair standing on end, crying. He becomes detached from bodily identification because the Lord takes full charge of his body and he experiences the activities of the body like a dream. So, and then we just have one little bit more. Just as a person is different from his son and wealth, although he identifies with them, the soul is different from his body. We are different from our body. Liberated souls can understand this. Just as fire is different from wood, sparks and smoke, etc. The Lord is also different from the soul combined with senses, 5 elements and consciousness. The perfect yogi sees how all living entities are the same on the spiritual platform, only seeming to be different according to different bodies they inhabit. So that's the end of the 28th chapter. Are there any questions or any comments?
With Prabhuji,
Yes. Anyway.
when we go to the temple, we try to look at the feet and move upwards, but because the face is so prominent, our attention immediately goes to the face. First thing we see is the face only, because everything, we are not that near, we are a little bit far.
Right.
Only prominent thing is the face, and we can't by the time we see him as a person rather than going one step up by up, unless there's a very big statue, very big deity.
It's true, yeah. I take your point. And the way they're decorated.
Yes, where we can't see anything. Exactly, yes.
The lotus feet of the Lord are visible, but Radharani's are not visible.
No.
And even the lotus feet, as you said, from a distance, it's a little hard to. You'd have to take your binoculars. Not even.
In the Mayapur, there are huge deities, aren't there? So
Yeah.
that's where these all things are possible. We can
Yes.
stay and concentrate on each part, but in the temples locally or in the deities at home, we cannot.
It's a good practice to always pray to the Lord. What you can do, if you can't see the lotus feet, just close your eyes and say, "My dear Lord, I'm meditating on your lotus feet. I can't actually see them."
Yes.
And then slowly you can say, "I'm now meditating on your knees, now meditating on your hips." It can take a minute, but in that way, you're following the procedure. Because it's said that as soon as if you see a superior person and you look straight into their eyes, it's actually insult.
Yes.
Yeah. At least that's the Vedic culture. Of course, in the West, that tradition is not there.
Yeah, in the West, unless you look into eyes, they think, what are you doing?
That's right. And you're seeing as a weak person,
Big person,
you
yes.
if you bend your head. But of course, before the Lord, He completely understands our, if we do what is recommended by Kapil Dev, He will be very happy.
Yeah. It's called something called Mans, isn't it? Mans
Yeah.
visualization.
That's it. Manasi Seva, through
Manasi.
mind. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Where you can't do anything physically, you do it with the mind.
Yes, that's a good point. Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. And you asked about Sankhya. You asked me privately. So Sankhya actually means to count. And what Kapil Dev is doing is counting, or is analyzing the matter into the 24 different aspects.
Yes.
That's effectively Sankhya Yoga. So, that's Sankhya, and the yoga part is what the yogi will do. He will do an analytical study of the nature of matter, the 24 elements, and spirit. And he will distinguish, this is matter, this is spirit, this is matter, this is spirit. So he will do an analytical study. Those who are engaged in Sankhya Yoga, they are not, it's not quite Astanga Yoga, nor is it Gyan Yoga. It is this yoga which Kapil Dev has given, which is all the different elements he has enumerated. And then what the Sankhya Yoga process is, you establish what is spirit and what is matter. So is analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter and the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. It aims to overcome suffering through cultivating determination and by releasing the soul. So the soul is like the Purush, Jiva Purush, from its entanglement in Prakriti. So the idea of Sankhya Yoga is by analyzing what is spirit, what is matter, you're trying to remove yourself from matter. It's a very difficult process. In Kali Yuga, it's a tough one to practice. It delineates the 24 elements with the soul, Chitta as the 25th, and then the 26th element is Paramatma, or God. And Patanjali is sort of linked with Sankhya Yoga. If they're practicing it properly, that is where it is. And there's a few other things. In Patanjali, they're quite, Patanjali himself, when he wrote the Sutras, he said, don't be allured by the perfections that one can achieve, the mystic perfection, by doing this yoga. Keep in mind self-realization. And he said, purge yourself of lust, anger, and greed, and have complete control of your mind and senses, do scripture study, and the most important, surrender to the Lord, which bestows peace, illumination, and samadhi. So even Patanjali, when he put out his yoga system, the focus was always on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like Kapil Dev has. But nowadays, we see some yoga systems where God is not even part of the picture.
Oh, and it seems to be more on the posture type and on the siddhis.
Yes.
Siddhis, people develop different siddhis. Like sometimes you see a video of a man wearing only minimum clothing, running on the mountains, cold, icy condition.
Yeah.
And this is people send these videos and say, look, exercise he has developed.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's to attain those material perfections. And I forgot what I was going to say. Yes, that's a very good point, Naniben. Yeah, their focus is. Oh, that's right. Those yoga systems, the focus is on light, or think of nothing, or find a spot in the wall and focus on that. They've forgotten God. God is out of the picture. You do the yoga, but forget about God. It's almost atheistic. It is atheistic,
Raj
actually.
Yoga.
Raj Yoga is one such philosophy. Yeah, that's right.
But when we were young, we were doing all this. Prabhuji, somebody told us when we are young and focus on the light and focus on the sport, focus on your nose, sit in one place. That's the first thing that we learned when we were very young. Huh? I'm talking about before our teenage years. But those things were more prominent at that time rather than thinking about Krishna and the God and the soul. So those things were not there.
Yeah. Yeah, they
I'm
wanted
talking
to.
about when we were in Africa. Huh?
Yes, that's right. Because they wanted to take God out of the picture. It's like
Yes.
even all you have, you don't have to. If we follow a yoga system, you put the Lord in there. It doesn't have to be Krishna. It can be Lord Vishnu as well. Whoever one is inclined towards. Then that becomes a proper connection with the Supreme Lord. But what they wanted to do was take God out of the picture and replace it with light. And how ridiculous that is. None of the authorized yoga systems actually say that. Even Patanjali doesn't say that.
Yeah, when my husband passed away, we had some guests from India. He had bought a few discs, and they were concentrating on the light. And he's supposed to be the father. Then the light, he said, concentrate on that and study that. But it never appealed to me. Obviously, I was not that type of a person. But they were all doing that. But they were getting up at 4:30 in the morning and practicing all this light. And he is the father. They have forgotten their own fathers. That he's the father, whoever is the light.
Yeah, it's quite amusing in that sense.
These are educated people. These
Yeah.
are educated, learned, very highly industrialist, and they are taken by these type of practices.
Essentially, what they want to achieve, underlying thing they want to achieve, although they will never admit it, is that they want to become God. And that is why
Yeah.
they want to practice that type of yoga. They actually want to become God. They may not, say that, but underlying everything is that philosophy that
Yeah.
want to merge with God and
Yes.
become as powerful as He is. And I want to become God, in fact.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
No, thank you so much, Naniman. Good interaction. Thank you. Anybody else? Kamakshi?
Yeah, I was just thinking as to when Naniben said in the young days. I think, yes.
Only a few years ago for you.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. I think it was blindly followed, isn't it? Without question.
Yeah.
And you didn't ask the question because they themselves didn't know the answer.
The answer.
And I think it was just blind faith followed by blind people. And that's how it just got spread. But I think now people question, and there's a lot more information on Google. Obviously, Prabhupada has got in the West in the English translation, so the answers are there in black and white.
Absolutely, and Prabhupada is the source of this revolution. There's nobody else who actually came out and did it.
Yes.
He completely transformed the whole way of thinking. Otherwise, where would we be? We'd probably be searching for that light as well,
Yes.
Because I remember myself. Sorry, Naniben. Some of my relatives follow this light business, and I used to question. Even Madhusudan used to say, and conversation has happened, and they say, "Oh, so what about this?" And he quoted Bhagavad Gita slokas, and they couldn't answer it because they were not into following Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Yeah, but these people are still there. They have to wear a particular type of the clothes, like white clothes or orange robes. Everybody, and they go to like Mount Abu, and there's huge structure there. They all pray. It is, and they on the something which is universal, and they think that it is their father.
Yeah, no, it's still there. Absolutely right. Because Krishna explains actually that there's cheaters and there's cheated. If you want to be cheated, then there will be cheaters to cheat you.
Yeah.
You'll have to ask my husband about, he had an incident about Murli. Ask him, he'll tell you.
Haribol, Hare Krishna, Nabi. Hare Krishna, Haribol to everyone. Hey, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, this is just an evidence, how deep Mayavad and impersonalism is, within Hinduism as well.
Yes.
And there are so many pseudo transcendentalists
Mm.
who proclaim and come out with philosophies, and they don't want to accept Krishna. And this thing about Murli, the same thing, is just this Raj Yoga.
Mm.
And they say this some guy up in the Mount Abu, he comes out with realizations every day or a morning and print it in a newsletter form. And that newsletter is called Murli. So it's actually a close relative of mine who was deeply involved in this, and he was promoting, and he even used to come to me and he said, I'm writing a commentary on Bhagavad Gita. I said, what gives you the right to write Bhagavad Gita? He said, I said, what authority have you got? I mean, who are you? You don't commentary that's good. So what is your comment on the chapter when the verse where Krishna says there's no truth higher than me?
Mm.
Everything is strung on me, the pearls are strung on the thread, and all that verse,
Mm.
And I said, well, you're saying that this Murli and this Baba, some in the Mount Abu,
Yeah.
and this light is superior to Krishna.
Yes.
So either you are right and Krishna is wrong in the Bhagavad Gita, because when he said there is no truth higher than me, so Krishna is wrong, you're right, this light is superior. So obviously that makes Bhagavad Gita worthless, because Krishna is wrong. So what's the point of commenting on the Bhagavad Gita as well anyway? I challenged him. I said, so if Bhagavad Gita is wrong, Krishna is wrong, you're right. So why do you want to comment on Bhagavad Gita, which is not validating as truth?
Excellent.
And it's not. So I challenged him like that. And he actually was writing sort of, like commentary on Bhagavad Gita. I said, luckily he didn't print it or anything. I don't think so, But these people will use Krishna's words. They will use Bhagavad Gita. They'll use the teachings when Krishna does that as well, he allows, he said, okay, if you want to meditate, sit on the kusa grass and put a lion, tiger's lion, whatever, and skin, deer skin or whatever it is, I don't know. And then meditate and stick your attention on your nose, tip of the nose and all that. Krishna will even allow that happen. And then fix your mind. But then he says, fix your mind on me though, not on some light. So I said, but if you think this light is superior, then Krishna is wrong, he's giving wrong process. So, but that was my challenge with them. And then I said, why Murli, I said, because Krishna is the only one who can play as a Murli in his hand. So why do you call your newspaper Murli, But I said, somehow or the other, Krishna tangles you all in this, He either say, you have to accept that Murli, okay, it's Krishna's Murli, but you won't accept it anyway. It is quite deep, this Mayavad philosophy and this Sankhya philosophy. And it is quite right that even when I was young, when I first started chanting and I picked up the beat, I felt like as if I had done this yoga sort of process before, because we've all come to this stage. You don't know how many lifetimes we might have practiced all these different kind of things. And luckily, fortunately, by good birth and good some whatever pious activity, I don't know, and by the blessing, particularly the mercy of Prabhupada, that he has brought personalism, Sunyavadi, destroying this Sunyavad, voidism and impersonalism and all that. And Prabhupada is bringing this, devotional service, bhakti to the, and you can have this yoga. Real yoga is this linking this relationship with Krishna. on a personal basis. And this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is delivering this. He's making it possible. And without Lord Chaitanya, no matter what Hindu philosophy you may go into, without Lord Chaitanya and mercy and praying and through Lord, you just cannot understand Krishna as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we are so fortunate. We got so many. That's why Lord Chaitanya instructed the Goswamis of Vrindavan, and they actually unlocked the treasure box.
Mm. Very true. Very true. Very
Yeah.
thankful for sharing that. So,
Thank you.
are there any other questions or any other comments? Okay, so Indulekha Maji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. You would like to go through the lessons?
Yes, I didn't read any. Have been preparing to give class yesterday at the temple, so I haven't read any of the chapters. So I will catch up though.
Yeah. Do you want to go through these ones that you've already
Yes,
done?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I
No
will.
problem at all.
Okay.
No. Very good.
Okay. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so lesson so far on Canto 3, chapter 1. If we make our home a temple, the Lord will definitely visit us. Chapter 2. In this age of Kali, our only tapasya is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Chapter 3. We all need a guru to guide us on the spiritual path. Chapter 4. No matter how learned one may be, one should not try to instruct someone who is well versed in spiritual knowledge and who is older than them unless solicited. Chapter 5, the Lord's external energy is Maya, and through her, the entire material world is created. Chapter 6, we should always engage in discussion of the activities and glories of the Lord, which are nicely written by the sages for our benefits. Chapter 7, by serving the spiritual master, one develops transcendental ecstasy in the service of the Lord, who vanquishes one's material distress. Chapter 8, the Supreme Personality of Godhead spoke this Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sages for the benefit of those entangled in material miseries. Chapter 9, if we want to escape the anxiety of the material world, we need to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Chapter 10, all living entities are struggling with the forces of material nature, but by transcendental knowledge and realization, and by surrendering unto the Lord, we can control this material energy. Chapter 11, the Lord controls all the physical movement by his time potency, yet he is not visible in the physical world. Chapter 12, we should always try to control our anger, because once escalates, anger turns into wrath. Chapter 13, we should live our life in pursuance of principle of devotional service unto and worship. Can you read this bit, please? And worship.
And worship of the Lord by performance of yajna. Hare Krishna.